I'm sure most of you here have used LGH File Inspector before, but just in case you need a reminder, since 2016, LGH File Inspector for Aviva InTouch HMI has enabled easy, scalable, and quick access to daily historical, or LGH, files that are logged by Aviva InTouch HMI and SCADA applications. By querying those LGH files and exporting that data within to CSV files, Aviva Historian Fast Load formatted CSV files, and Excel files. The LGH File Inspector standalone desktop application has historically been the only option for LGH File Inspector. This can be on the same machine as InTouch or on a different machine, just as long as it has access to those LGH files within a file path. It can get that out, as I mentioned, to CSV files, Excel files, Aviva Historian Fast Load files, and can be automated using batch files or Windows task scheduler. We actually have had people also use InTouch scripting as well. Thank you so much, Jay. So now that we've reviewed what LGH File Inspector is and some of the ways in which it is used, let's talk about what's new in version 4. So first, there's a new licensing look and feel, simplified licensing that is now standardized across both the industrial graphic and the desktop application. A couple of things that took a few pages to go through are now all on one page. Specifically, the offline activation is a little easier now. We've also added full support for LGH files created in InTouch 2023 SP1R2. We had some users reporting issues with files created in that version, but that has been resolved in version 4 with a lot of success. So the most exciting part to me, and the reason that we are here today, is starting in version 4, LGH File Inspector is now also available as an industrial graphic for direct integration into your Aviva InTouch HMI windows. So along the left here, you can see some screenshots of the new industrial graphic in both Windows Maker and WindowViewer. By integrating LGH File Inspector into InTouch, we are increasing ease of use and allowing you to keep your users within their InTouch screens, meaning you no longer need application launch permissions to query LGH files, contributing to your zero trust cybersecurity goals by helping you adhere to the principle of least privilege. No longer does a user need separate application launch permissions, and now you just need to ensure that the user context that InTouch is running under has permission to the LGH file path and save location, which most likely is already the case, as InTouch itself is going to be what's reporting those LGH files. Historically, some automation could be done using InTouch scripting, but the ability to modify queries on the fly in a visual UI was missing. So that has increased efficiency and productivity with this industrial graphic, since you no longer need to leave your screen. It also gives you visibility into multiple data sources at the same time, letting you view your query results and other data points on your InTouch windows so that you can act on the information without needing to leave. As we talked about earlier, historically, the standalone desktop application had always been set up this way, where you have InTouch and LGH File Inspector sometimes on the same machine, sometimes on separate machines, but LGH File Inspector always is a standalone application. Now, LGH File Inspector can be within your InTouch window instead. And you can still export to the exact same file formats that you could before: Excel, CSV files, and Aviva Historian Fast Load CSV files. So now we are going to do a quick walkthrough of how to add that industrial graphic to your InTouch window, just to see how quick and easy it is. All right, hopefully everyone can see my screen, but yes. Here I have, beautiful, InTouch open, and we're going to go to File, Import, Under Visualization, select Industrial Graphics. I'm going to select my AAPKG. So this is what you're going to get when you download the LGH File Inspector Industrial Graphic, whether it's through a free trial or whether you purchase it and then receive that. This is pretty much the equivalent of the EXE for the standalone application, but nothing needs to install. You just need to add it to your InTouch instance. So you're going to get an option on whether you want to skip or overwrite for importing the industrial graphic. This does not matter the first time, but second, third, in the future when you want to upgrade, you'll want to make sure that you overwrite. If the source content change version is higher or regardless of version, does not matter. You can go ahead and hit OK. That's done importing. We'll close. And let's create a new symbol, new graphic. I am going to name it LGH File Graphic. Open that. All right, now that that's open, we'll go ahead and right-click and embed Industrial Graphic. The front page here, you'll see the LGH File Inspector. And now select where you want to place that. So I just put it in the top left corner so it's easier to access. I am also going to go ahead and embed another industrial graphic, this time a clock, just so you can see something moving, something else working on the same symbol. You can go ahead and save and close. Okay, and now we can put that onto the window. Click and drag where we want it. A little bit. Beautiful. We'll save and launch the runtime. So now we're going to see it in WindowViewer, see what it looks like. And as you can see, it's a lot like the standalone desktop application. Aesthetically, you can do all of the same things, except for at this time you cannot script. So you can't automate your querying through the Windows task scheduler or batch files or InTouch scripting as you can with the standalone application. That is currently not available at this time for the industrial graphic. But I am currently licensed, so you'll see that I have the same typical limitations that a fully licensed LGH File Inspector will have. There you can only have up to 1,024 tags at a time and up to about 15 million points overall. Go ahead and run the query. And now because LGH File Inspector, the industrial graphic, shares its resources with the rest of InTouch, things that on the standalone application might take 1 or 2 seconds, might take closer to 5. But the reduction in time is not that great and really does depend on what InTouch is doing in the background since we're sharing those resources. There we go. So now you can see all the same data. And one thing I really like showing people is that you can right-click on any of these columns and show the raw data for that tag. That's true for both the industrial graphic and the standalone application, but this is super helpful. If you're not quite sure how often you want to query and what you want that query interval to be, you can test one, look here and say, oh, well, it's changing, every so often. We'll set that query interval to match. So that can be super helpful. And as you can see, we can send the data to Excel, a new worksheet, new workbook, existing worksheet, existing workbook, CSV file, Aviva Historian fast load CSV file, all the same as the standalone application. We can also save a query, open a query, create a new query, and then this question mark here is going to give us a pop-up that gives us our licensing information, as well as access to the help file.
Zach?
Yes.
Initially I said that all questions will be answered in the Q&A, but this one fits into the context, I think. Limited to 1024 to query, is that the same as the standalone application?
That is correct, yes. So each individual query is limited to that 1024, so 1024. Because in testing, that's when we started seeing us reaching close to the limitations of a 32-bit application. Windows only gives you about 3 gigabytes of memory, although honestly, it's usually a little less than that. And once you go beyond 1024, that's when you start seeing creeping up beyond 2.6. So you risk some issues there. Now, if you do need to query more tags than that at a time, you can run multiple queries. That's part of why people do scripting and automating, because you can do that with multiple queries at the same time. But if you do have any questions about that, or if there's any specific need with that, please let me know. You're going to see my email near the end of this, as well as we'll be sending out a follow-up email, so you can either email me directly or reply to that email. I'll help out.
So basically, to summarize that, the practical tag limit and performance ceiling of both the standalone and the industrial graphic version is the same.
It's hard-coded for the sake of because we've seen that as the practical limitation. But again, if you have a specific need, let me know. We can help you get around it as needed.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you all for joining. And Jay, would you like to open the floor up for the Q&A?
Yeah, there's a few comments and a few questions. Let me start, Zach, with just a run through of what are the pros and cons of using a standalone LGH file inspector as opposed to the industrial graphic version.
Yeah, so the pros of the standalone LGH File Inspector desktop application. You can script at this time when that's not currently possible with the industrial graphic. So if you want to automate your querying, that can be done through batch files, through Windows Task Scheduler, through InTouch. And the blog I mentioned earlier, we have blog posts for all three of those to kind of help you get through them. As far as the industrial graphic goes, that it increases security because you're not having to give users the permissions to launch an application aside from just InTouch. And it makes things a lot easier because everything is within the same window. A big reason that this was created was because users found that while InTouch scripting was super helpful, they couldn't modify the queries from within InTouch. They still had to, if they had to change what tags they were requesting or change the duration, they'd have to go out of InTouch and go to the desktop application. So this allows you to modify those queries from within InTouch.
Thanks, Zach. And then to summarize the licensing model, you can purchase either standalone or industrial graphic, depending on your requirements, correct?
Yeah, that is correct. We also do offer a bundle with both of them. So if you are using one and think you might use the other, or if you're not sure which one you want to use, first of all, I always suggest using the free trial. We have a limitation of 25 queries, 25 tags each, 100 points. And that is usually enough to get you started, get you getting an idea of how these work, if it'll meet your needs. Again, if not, please let me know. I'm more than happy to help. But we do offer it as a pack, the licensing as a pack, if you want to purchase one of them, think you might want to in the future. It is a little cheaper to go ahead and purchase both of them at the same time than it would be to purchase one and then a few months later purchase the other.
Right. And so the licensing, is it per user, per system, per site?
Yes, so it is per user. With both the industrial graphic and the standalone desktop application, you can purchase one user or a 5-user bundle. If anyone remembers back in version 1 and version 2, it used to be server or just like typical Windows installation. And the 5-pack is essentially our new version of what that server is. Although, obviously, if you only have one person logging into a server, you don't need the 5-pack. But yes, it is per user. And then if someone needs to change what laptop it's on, as long as it's within the same site, that is totally doable as long as you are currently on an active support and maintenance agreement.
I've got 2 questions. One is, can a script launch the window and load a query ready to execute?
Yes, so for the desktop application, it can, yes. And so it can either execute the so it can either execute the query or launch LGH File Inspector so that you can execute it.
And the second question is kind of for both of you. The case study that you talked about, Jay, is there going to be more information available in the follow-up email?
About the case study, yes, we are in the process of creating a PDF version of the case study, and we are going to publish it as well in the Software Toolbox website. As soon as it's completed, we will send this over to you, especially the participants of this webinar. There are 2 actually. There's one on pharma and another one on chemical. So you'll get a two success story a PDF.
And there's an extra comment to the previous question for an embedded.
So for the industrial, so for the industrial graphic, no. I see that John responded as well. Yes, you can't currently have a saved query and automatically launch that with scripting. You can open a query that was made previously in the industrial graphic yourself and then launch it, run it from there, ready to go. But that scripting functionality is not currently available. And so that's the automation portion. That still requires the desktop application because it launches the exe.
Any more questions, Tanya?
Not on my end so far.
A couple more. So in relation to what you were saying, Zach, are there any training resources on or how-to guides that are available for potential users of the LGH File Inspector?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me go ahead and switch what I'm sharing again. Show you. So we're at softwaretoolbox.com. If you go to Solutions under HMI SCADA add-on, select LGH File Inspector, there is a resources section here. So you've got your system requirements, a link to the user's guide, and some videos. So that getting started guide and the automating queries guide that I mentioned earlier are here. We will also have a getting started with the industrial graphic, which will be based off of this webinar. So that will be available here as well. You can also find the release notes and a link to our technical blog. This link actually goes straight to just things tagged LGH File Inspector, or I think just LGH in this case. So that automating queries, getting started, information about that 3.5 release, some InTouch scripting, how to export from a remote system, and some use cases.